You know that feeling? The absolute roar of a stadium, tens of thousands of voices echoing into the night sky, that sea of colors and the electric tension right before the referee blows the whistle? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we're tracing a truly epic journey. We're going to look at how a simple kicking game, born on muddy, chaotic fields, somehow conquered the globe to become this massive multi-billion-dollar empire that literally unites the world. It really makes you wonder, right? How exactly did a simple game conquer the globe? Because it's really a story of evolution. Today, we're going to track the incredible transformation of association football. We'll watch it grow from these informal, highly localized traditions into a fiercely regulated, universal commercial industry. So let's just quickly run through our roadmap for today. We're going to tell the complete story of the beautiful game across 6 rapid-fire chapters, starting with its origins and the first international match, then moving to the birth of the World Cup, the television revolution, the superstar era, and finally looking ahead to its data-driven future. Chapter 1. Origins and the Rulebook. Standardizing the beautiful game. Now sure, ancient variations of the game definitely existed. Take Cuju, for instance, which was detailed in an old military manual from the Han Dynasty in China. But the modern game as we know it truly began to take shape in the mid-19th century. In 1863, that's the real watershed moment. In October of that year, at the Freemasons Tavern in London, a solicitor named Ebenezer Cobb Morley got together with representatives from various clubs. He proposed standardizing the wildly different sets of rules being played all across England. The result was the formation of the Football Association and the original laws of the game. And importantly, they finally banned carrying the ball and hacking opponents' shins, which definitively separated association football from rugby once and for all. Chapter 2. The first international match, Scotland versus England. When these two historic rivals met up in Glasgow on November 30, 1872, the tactical contrast was honestly wild. Scotland's team was made up entirely of players from Queen's Park. They featured lighter men using a highly coordinated passing and dribbling style in a 2-2-6 formation. They know each other's play perfectly. England, on the flip side, fielded heavier forwards in a crazy aggressive 1-1-8 formation. Because the rules back then required 3 defenders to keep an attacker onside, England's single fullback and halfback system was basically a ready-made offside trap. Just picture this scene for a second. A crowd of exactly 4,000 spectators paid an entry fee of 1 single shilling each to watch this historic clash. They stood out there in the pouring rain, surrounding a heavy, soaked pitch at a cricket ground in Partick. And despite this fierce tactical battle and Scotland coming agonizingly close to scoring, the match ended in a goalless draw. But the spark had definitely been lit. Chapter 3. FIFA and the World Cup. Taking the game global. Fast forward a bit to 1904 in Paris. That's when FIFA was officially founded under the leadership of Robert Guerin. But it was actually the visionary FIFA president Jules Rimet who really pushed for an independent world championship that was totally separate from the Olympics. In 1928, the FIFA Congress finally gave the green light to Rimet's dream. By 1930, the very first FIFA World Cup was hosted and won by Uruguay. And just a couple of decades after that, in 1954, the tournament celebrated its 100th match over in Switzerland. To really put the massive scale of modern tournaments into perspective, think about this. That inaugural 1930 World Cup had only 13 entrants, just 13. A lot of European nations simply refused to make the long boat trip down to South America, largely due to the severe economic fallout of the 1929 Wall Street crash. And the 1930 final between Uruguay and Argentina, it was full of these amazing little quirks. Because there was no official match ball back then, both teams brought their own, and a bitter squabble actually broke out over which one to use. The Belgian referee, Jean Langenis, literally had to toss a coin to decide. Argentina won the toss, so their ball was used for the first half, and Uruguay's ball was used for the second.
Uruguay ended up storming back in that second half to win 4-2 in front of over 60,000 fans. And this quote from Argentina's Francisco Varela perfectly captures the raw, crushing human emotion of that day. He said, "I suffered so much when the Uruguayans started kissing the shirt, and I can't tell you how much I cried when it was all over." It just goes to show that even in its earliest days, the World Cup carried an unimaginable amount of weight.
Chapter 4. The Television Revolution. Broadcasting the Spectacle. Okay, so everything literally changed at the 1970 Mexico World Cup. Under FIFA president Sir Stanley Rouse, this became the very first tournament to be broadcast around the globe in full color. It transformed the sport entirely. Suddenly, it was no longer just about the thousands of fans inside the stadium, it was about millions and millions of people watching from their living rooms all over the world. If you follow the money, you see this dramatic shift. In the 1970s and early 80s, clubs relied almost entirely on turnstile revenues, basically cash handed over by working-class fans right at the gate. But jump to the late 90s, and matchday income had dropped to 37% of total revenue. Meanwhile, television broadcasting rights absolutely skyrocketed to make up 30%, and it was climbing fast. Football was becoming fiercely commercialized. £743 million. Just let that number sink in. That was the astronomical value of the massive 1996 television deal struck between the FA Premier League, Sky B, and the BBC. Live, exclusive TV rights completely flooded the English game with cash. It allowed clubs to attract the absolute greatest talents from around the world, turning the league into a premium global entertainment product. Chapter 5. The Superstar Era. Players over clubs. Historically, football journalism was all about covering the club as an institution. But with the rise of the UEFA Champions League and global broadcasting, the media started fixating heavily on individual, godlike superstars. Just think about the intense focus on global icons like Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Match reports evolved entirely. They stopped being simple recaps of what happened and became highly technical analyses of why an action mattered. A goal wasn't just a finish anymore. It was the result of incredibly complex moving parts. And today, fans are basically just as obsessed with the data as the managers are. Through heat maps, expected goals, touch maps, fans don't just watch the sport anymore. They dissect it. These tools have totally expanded international coverage and given supporters a completely new, immersive way to understand the tactics of the game. Which leads us to Chapter 6, a data-driven future, from Merseyside to metadata. So, FIFA has now engineered this football data ecosystem. It's a literal framework designed to structure the collection and real-time processing of vast amounts of match data, right into a centralized hub. We are talking about the automated tracking of every single movement out there on the pitch. This ecosystem perfectly encapsulates just how incredibly far the sport has come since Ebenezer Morley was standardizing rules in a London tavern. The contrast from where we started is just staggering. Back in 1930, you had 13 teams arguing over a leather ball. Compare that to the milestone 1000th World Cup match between Japan and Tunisia. Now the sport is managed by a governing body with more members than the United Nations, utilizing automated real-time tracking, video assistant referees, and instant global data delivery. The universal appeal of the game was always intrinsic, for sure, but its growth into this hyper-polished global spectacle, that was very much by design. So I want to leave you with this thought. From those muddy, chaotic 19th century fields all the way to the hyper-analyzed metadata of today, what is the next century of the beautiful game going to look like? How will technology continue to redefine the sport we love, without losing that raw human emotion that makes us cry when our team kisses the shirt? Think about that the next time you sit down to watch a match. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.